they had all the kids in the school all lined up with their legs, apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that person that was tardy, they have to crawl on their hands and knees and go through, and everybody had great big boards about that wide. And as he's going through, you have to hit him hard with that board. So, there was one boy that kept going through it over and over and over. And I wanted to cry every time I'd see that. But that boy never did learn. He'd always come to school tardy. Yeah.
That sounds pretty harsh.
It is harsh. That's why up to this day, I don't know.
Oh, it's just, yeah, it doesn't sound, yeah. What was the kids who gave who were spanking the boy, were they happy to be able to spank, or was
they were really looking forward to it. They were all excited. We got time off from school just to watch them get spanked.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The time to get their nose out of the book, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's cross that one out. I was wondering now, when you started to go to elementary school at Mahoney Heights, when you first began, did you know how to speak English already? Wait, here, I'll turn this over. Whoops, yeah, because how old were you when you started at school?
Oh, I was 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
My mom and dad didn't want me to go to school because I had been hurt pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I kept blacking out.
Oh.
And so they figured they were just going to keep me out of school for good. Just like my older sister Dora. But one of the teachers came to our house, Margaret Ridley, and she told my mom and dad, she says, if you don't send her to school, you'll have to go to jail.
Oh.
And so they were forced to let me go to school, which I'm glad.
I was just going to ask, are you glad you got to go to
yes,
school?
I used to feel so bad seeing the kids go to school, and I'd be in the house looking out at them,
Yeah, 8 years old is pretty late.
Yeah. So it seemed like they were so far above me.
Now, when you started to go to school at 8 years old, did you already know how to speak English?
No, I didn't.
Oh, now who taught you how to speak English?
Well, there was, what's his name, Leonard Allen.
Yeah.
Well, he'd already started learning to talk Tsimshian.
Oh.
So he was the interpreter. And then he'd tell me it's just the words, for what I should use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty nice.
Good, yeah. So as you were learning to speak English in public school, I'm sure there were times where right at the beginning you didn't know how to say everything perfectly in English, where you would need some help from students or the teacher. Were they forthcoming with help and teaching you how to say something correctly in English?
Well, I thought they were, at least with me anyway.
Yeah.
But what was kind of bad about that, because, well, I wanted to show off to my mom and dad my English, what I learned in English.
Yeah.
Then I'd go home, and then I'd be talking in English and telling them what I want on the table. And they'd get mad at me. He says, stop it right now. He says, now talk in your own language.
Boy, you can't win for losing, could you?
No.
At that point, that was your transition from the Tsimshian language into the English language.
Right.
So it would probably be, difficult for your parents to understand what you were going through, because you were using two different languages.
Oh, yeah, but I told them there was a lot of things I wanted, and I knew how to say it in English.
Oh.
But I never got it.
Yeah. So did you pick up the English language pretty quick?
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And what I used to hate about going to school, because it seems like that teacher always used to pick me out to recite in class, and then on parents' night and PTAs, then I'd have to do my recitation, and then Christmas parties, I'd be picked. I had to since I was, my brothers could play music and they had me lead the band.
You were the family mascot, huh?
Yeah, so, oh boy, I hated that and I was so shy. And my dad always just tell me, speak up loud so I can hear you where I'm standing, way I'm back by the door.
Oh.
So I'd be yelling my head off.
But you did it anyhow?
Oh, I did it anyway, because I love my dad a lot.
Yeah. This is kind of a pretty broad question. What effect did school have on your life? Now, is it your feeling that your school experience enriched your life or confused it?
Well, I'll tell you, no, I liked school. In fact, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me see. Can you tell me about growing up in Ketchikan? Now, I've heard, when I was growing up, I heard people refer to Stedman Street as Indian Town. Did you guys call it Indian Town when you were young?
Oh yes, well we know, we know what the people were talking about when they said Indian Town. But that was true. There was a lot of Indians there.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of them were our relatives and our friends.
It went up on Woodland Avenue in Dearmont,
Yeah.
up in that area.
That was called Mahoney Heights. And they
Mhm.
changed it to Dearmont.
Mm.
So what were the geographic perimeters? What would you say were the borders of where Indian Town stopped?
Well, I always figured there by that federal building.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And then on the opposite end?
Up by Tatsudas.
That
But there was a lot of bars down that other end.
Oh, do you mean on the other side of the federal building?
Well, on both sides of the creek.
Oh.
Yeah, there was.
Barney Way, where the library sits now, huh?
Oh yeah, that's where my brother was born, was in Barney Way. And then my brother Ronald, the oldest, he was born in Ravenna Island across until our house burned down on 4th of July. Well, not my house, I wasn't born yet, but yeah, my mother lost everything, all her wedding presents, and while they're over here celebrating the holiday.
Can you remember some, try to try to show us some examples of how it was different a long time ago in Indian Town compared to today? What were the streets like?
Well, at first there were boardwalks, you know. And then the city decided to put just gravel, but there was a lot of big rocks. I fell on them and cut my leg open. And, that was dirty.
Yeah,
Gravel.
the mud and dirt.
Everybody on the rainy days you could never keep your front room or your house clean with all that mud. Yeah, but I remember years ago when I was small, there was a he's a man in his 40s, and I don't know what nationality he was, but we used to call him Tamale Hot Dog. Yeah, he used to go by with one of those push carts, with glass around it and heated up inside, and he'd sell hot dogs and hot tamale he'd make himself. And he'd be pushing that cart through the street and he'd be yelling, "Hot tamale, hot dog." And so we never knew his name, but we knew him by hot tamale, hot dog. So I think maybe probably in the late 30s, and then he disappeared. Yeah, so he didn't go around selling anymore.
Do you suspect he might have been Mexican?
I don't know. He looked white to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Then I remember the days years ago when people used to go out and crank their cars to get it going.
Mm.
Yeah. Boy.
Those kind of gravelly roads sound like they might have been hard on a vehicle.
Oh, yes, but I think years ago we had more fun. They had a great big bus, and it used to cost us, 10 cents? But when you go out to Ward's Cove, Ward's Lake, or out to Herring Cove, that was 20 cents. and that's one way.
That's wonderful.
They used to go all the way out there.
Isn't that great?
So we used to catch the bus to go berry picking.
Oh, that's how you would get
Yeah.
around, is by bus, huh?
Yeah, that was nice.
Mhm. I was wondering if you could tell us in Tsimshian about any childhood adventures you've had when you were young.
Well, I'll tell you about the story about monkeys and coconuts,
Okay, that would be wonderful.
but it's a true story.
Okay, good.
Well, this happened at an island that we used to go to. We call it Gitnack.angeak. And it's a place where the Fawcett family, all smoked fish, went out there. There's a great big creek there. And the Fawcett's and their relatives, and a big long house, and each one would have a room where they'd stay, and the other side would be just, you see a lot of fish up there. And we'd be just all, we'd all play together, and the old people would tell stories at night. Well, my mother didn't get along too well with her in-laws. There was too many, so she told my dad to build a cabin for us. And so Dad built a cabin on the side of the hill. Oh, it was nice, brand new lumber and everything. Big, wide bunk beds. Yeah, so Dad and Mom slept on the bottom, my sister Lena and I on the top. And this had to be around September too, because we'd go in September to get about 500 real hard-dried smoked salmon for winter time. Well, we had gone to bed, and then during the night, I heard somebody throwing rocks on top of the cabin. And I was on the top bunk, and my sister was gone. And so I looked down, and Mom and Dad weren't there. But I saw a light on in the kitchen part. We used to use wicks dipped in grease, And I got up. There was my dad sitting in front of the door with a gun in his hand. And my sister was sitting on top of Mom's lap. So I asked Dad in Tsimshian. I said, who's throwing those rocks on top of the roof, Dad? He said, no. He said, those are monkeys throwing coconuts down. Well, I was pretty deaf in those days. I believed him. But the next morning, my Mom and Dad took all the fish and tied them up in bundles. And the ones that weren't ready to be bundled up yet, they left behind. Because going around the house was a man's footprints, and he didn't have no socks or shoes on. And it had rained, so he left the prints right in the mud. And gosh, Dad went and talked to the other people down below us that were smoking fish. And one of them was my uncle there. He took his boat up to be fixed, so he put it up on the grid. And that was Mason. He had the Golden North. And Dad and them were taking the stuff onto the Norma. We had the boat, the Norma, sailboat. He said, please, he says, don't leave me behind. He says, help me get my boat off. He says, I don't want to stay here alone. Yeah, and so we had to wait for a high tide to get him off. But we left a lot of fish in the smokehouse for whoever it was that was throwing rocks on top of the roof. And when we got into town, my dad went up to the U.S. Marshal's office and told them what happened and about the prints around that cabin. And so the U.S. Marshal had a search team. And they went out with Dad, and then went out to Gitnack.angeak, where this happened. And so they scattered and went around all over, and they found a plane that had wrecked. But there was no sign of the pilot. And they were surprised, so they think that it must have been the pilot that must have gone insane, being by himself. And that was the one that wanted us to get out from where we were at.
Wow.
So we never did go back to Nitsugi to smoke fish.
Wow.
Yeah, it scared the daylights out of us.
So then you had to pack up everything and go.
Everything. Oh, yeah.
Evacuate,
We
yeah.
weren't even ready.
Oh, wow.
But
Creepy.
years later, it dawned on me that there was no such things as monkeys and coconuts.
Yeah.
And they never did find that man either. So he must have eventually died out there somewhere, the pilot.
No, can you remember about what age you were when this happened?
Oh, I had to be maybe about 10.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I was out there one time, and there was a little fawn too. I had a fawn, a little pet out there. And somebody must have killed the mother, but the little fawn would keep coming every day, and I'd feed it, you know. And oh, I enjoyed that fawn so much. And then one morning, my folks let me sleep late. So I woke up, you know, nobody was around. So I got up and I looked out the door, and there was my dad with his gun aiming at my little friend, the fawn. And he shot it. I was screaming, "No, Dad, no, don't." I said, "He's mine, you know."
Yeah.
And Dad took me aside and he says, "No," he says, "we needed the food." He says, we're running out of food." I says, "No, you didn't. We didn't run out of food." I says, "Dad, we got a lot of smoked fish."
Yeah.
Which we should have been awful tired of: boiled fish, fried fish, smoked fish. But no, I wouldn't eat deer meat for years after that.
Oh,
But I can still picture that little fawn.
sweet little baby deer.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sad.
Uh,
I was wondering, would you be able to tell us the story of monkeys and coconuts in the Tsimshian language?
Well, okay. Gitnack. That's a losko. Tsimshian Language. Ni haben verum gumtsham hanam. Hele naam. There's James Mason, I think. Peter Fawcett and his wife. Yeah, just Fawcett's out there. And girl, actually, a nurse, no, her in-laws, the Fawcett, the house Papa. He says, "Zappa wap, the Paluanum, the Welsh Papa. There's some no wap, Zappat, the Walum, the hope at the house of Mama's Papa. From station, knocking. I was but laying at the snow on the top. The hope of the no, the oil get lop. The Ketchikan. Ja, det var alls pappa. Alls pappa. All höjde the gun, I forgot how you say that.
Kapala?
Yeah. And how you just, yeah, that's just go around from near them to shoot at, you know, and they came in. I said, Naya and clear oil, lop, the all wap. I ain't dead, Papa. Couple of monkeys, I think. Yeah, but oi, coconuts. Like all wap. I ain't some. I believed it till I grew older here, and the that till I was to my mother's Papa. Eelet, Glidarahoan, dat Gärdelach Norma, Eelet dat hoorem gaan. Het la house, na Biba Mason, James Mason. Glas, de mami, is papa. Pääsinyt, dat äidin paadus. De mama de boat. Dus niin was papa. Tällä ken hij tijd. Se ken boat. Tällä kitlu jälkeen tekit skään. Tällä pahjas vapahtu. Niitä juos Marshall. Tämä juos Marshall var johtajan. Hij oi lohtella. Tänne världen että akadit hoist tsahs. Läpi stappins tällä jukut niitä oli jäät. Tällä hau juos Marshall. Svapa. Tämä käydä heille johtaa. Tämä niin näkui. Vaista kui airplane. Tämä paketi lut af. Na pilot airplane. Se oli rada hios Marshall lagi mobs ja pilot. Must have hit his head and went crazy. Yeah, and they tried. Akti the was go johta kui. I think he must have died. Jackson johta kui. The spellde det var lätt ät. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that sounded beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Gee, you sound nice. You really go to town.
Oh, yeah. When I can remember the words. Huh?
I don't know. I just it makes me feel really comfortable to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just
see,
the
that's-
sound is just kind of triggers, you know,
Yeah,
you to
well, that's
relax.
the difference where if the young kids could understand and talk the language, and then when somebody talks, it makes, you know, it means something.
It sure does.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can't understand most of the words, but just the sound and the pace of the words are very relaxing to me.
Oh, yeah, it seems like we talk awful slow when we talk Tsimshian, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But over in Kispiaks, one time I was over in Kispiaks,
Yeah.
they're the originators of the Tsimshian language, is where we come from. And over there, they talk real fast. Where we say Dalawan, they say Dalalawatlam. Yeah. Oh, you have to listen real close to those people when they talk.
Now, where's this town again?
It's in Kispiaks over in Canada.
Is that on the Skeena River or Nass River?
Well, I think it's up the Nass.
Up the Nass, huh? Wow.
Well, I'm not sure, but I know it's up the river.
Yeah.
It's a long ways to go by bus.
Goodness, yeah.
And they have a great, beautiful, big, long house.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, they do an awful lot of Indian dancing. And some of the women are 85 years old. And they're out there doing those Indian dances.
Wonderful.
And they're so beautiful. I never really cared for Indian dancing until I watched those people. And they tell you in Tsimshian and English what the dance is about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they were called twice by Queen what's her name, Elizabeth,
I think so.
to come over, repeat performance over in England for her.
Wow.
Oh,
Nice.
Lord,
That's
that
something.
I think is so nice.
Gee, I would like to see them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's okay, but can you tell us the story about Tzech? Or is Tzech the same as Tsimshian?
No, they're different. I think one was a thief, and I think the other one supplied, you know, made extra fish. You know, there'd be a lot of hooligans. Yeah, but I don't know whether it was Tech or Tsimshian, but I'll tell you the one about Zek. He was so lazy, and people would go out in summertime to smoke fish and shoot deer, for winter time. And not Zek. He always wanted people to come and give him stuff. He was always bummed. He says, I'm hungry, feed me. And people got tired of it. Yeah. And so a lot of people were gone, and they left the village for their grounds where they go smoke fish. And this is in the fall time. And so Zekworth and his grandmother were the only ones there, and she's a pretty old lady. She was weak. Yeah, and so when they ran out of food, and Zek asked his grandmother, says, well, what are we going to eat now? Go ahead and come. And she said, Akadi don't go to come. She said, there's nothing here for us to eat. She says, go out and see if you can get some fish.
Okay, let's turn it off. I'm gonna put